Be solving problem number 4 from my quiz review, and I gotta divide x to the third minus 11x plus a divided by x minus 3. And I wanna write my answer as quotient plus remainder over divisor, and my hint is that I can use either long or synthetic division. So I'm gonna write my original polynomial or my dividend inside the box. But notice that instead of writing x to the third minus 11x plus 8, I wrote only the coefficients. So the coefficient of x to the third is just a 1. So I'm going to write a 1 in here. I don't have a coefficient for x to the second because I don't have a term with x to the second. So my coefficient for x to the second is just 0 because I don't have a term with x to the second. The coefficient for x to the first is just negative 11. So I'm going to write negative 11. And finally, the coefficient for my number by itself is just 8. So I'm going to write 8 here. Then I'm going to write my divisor, which is x minus 3, out here. But notice that instead of writing x minus 3, I just wrote negative 3 because I have x minus 3. So I just bring this over here just as negative 3. Now I'm going to start with my division. So the first thing that I want to do is bring down the 1. And I get a 1. I'm going to multiply now. So I'm going to do 1 times negative 3, which is negative 3. I don't want to confuse you, but just know that for this synthetic division, I did not switch negative 3 to positive 3. So what I'm going to do, since I didn't change the sign, I'm going to subtract like I do in long division. So I'm going to always subtract. Why? Because I did not change the sign here. So instead of doing 0 plus negative 3, I'm going to do 0 minus minus 3. So I'm always subtracting. So 0 minus negative 3, right, will be 0 plus 3. So I'm going to get 3. So essentially, I'm changing the sign of the number that I hear. So instead of 0 minus 3, I'm going to get 0 plus 3, which is 3. I'm going to multiply again. So I'm going to do 3 times negative 3, which is negative 9. And again, instead of doing negative 11 minus 9, since I'm subtracting, I got to do negative 11 plus 9. I'm changing the sign here. So negative 11 minus negative 9 will be negative 11 plus 9. That gives me negative 2. And finally, I'm going to multiply negative 2 times negative 3 to get 6. And again, I'm subtracting. So I'm going to change the sign so this becomes minus 6. So 8 minus 6 is just 2. So I'm essentially done. So this right here, that's my quotient or result. This right here is my remainder. And this quantity right here, well, that's a quantity that I divided by, so that's just my divisor or divisor. So if I want to write it in the form quotient plus remainder over divisor, notice that my remainder is not 0, so I'm going to end up with 3 different quantities. So my quotient is going to become this right here. But am I going to write 1 plus 3 minus 2? No, remember that these are coefficients. So since this represented the 1, originally represented the coefficient of x to the third, since I divided by x, which is to the first, now this is going to become, this 1 down here, is going to become the coefficient of x to the second. So coefficient of x to the second. So I'm going to get 1. So 1. So I'm going to write my answer here. It's going to be 1 x to the second. This 3 now is going to become the coefficient of x to the first. So I'm going to have plus 3 x to the first. And next, I'm going to have a negative 2. And originally in this column, negative 11 represented the coefficient of x to the first. But now, since I divided, this is going to become the coefficient of x to the 0, or just a number by itself. So I'm just going to get minus 2. Now I want to write it as quotient plus remainder over divisor. So this is my quotient, or my result, 1x to the second plus 3x minus 2. And now I need a remainder and a divisor. Let me open the screen really quick so you guys can see the solution. Okay, and apparently I'm not gonna get more space. But basically, I wanna do plus, and then what is my remainder? Well, my remainder was just 2. So this last box over here is always my remainder, which is 2. And finally, I'm gonna divide 2 by what? By my divisor. And was my divisor negative 3? No, remember that I got negative 3 by looking at this. This is x minus 3, so that's why I got negative 3. So my actual divisor is x minus 3. So when you do synthetic division, this quantity is always the coefficient of your answer or your quotient. This last box, circle it because that's always your remainder. And this quantity that you write out here is always your divisor, which is x minus 3, right? So my final answer in the form quotient plus remainder over divisor is going to be 1x to the second plus 3x minus 2 plus, and then my remainder was 2 over my divisor, which was x minus 3.